As Donald Trump continues to name key individuals to his administration, criticism continues to mount concerning some of these potential appointments. Now, we recently did a video about one of these potential picks, Sheriff David A. Clarke, as Secretary of Homeland Security, and how dangerous that might have been. Now, thankfully, it doesn't look like he's going to get that position. So that's a good thing. That's good news.
Mr. Police Brutality ended in the 60s.
That guy.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but even though he may not get that position, there are still significant concerns with some of these potential picks to Trump's cabinet. And they've been criticized.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been that way from the jump.
So recently on CNN, Jake Tapper interviewed Tulsi Gabbard about this issue, about the concern of some of his appointments, but specifically about the appointments of a few retired generals.
I know that some of your colleagues, Democrats, have expressed concern about too many retired generals being in the Trump cabinet. You have the National Security Advisor, General Flynn, and then also he's talked about General Mattis and General Kelly at the Pentagon and Homeland Security. Do you share their concerns, or do you disagree?
I don't share their concerns. In fact, as a veteran and as someone who's still serving in the Hawaii Army National Guard, I find it pretty offensive for people to outright discriminate against veterans. Here you have generals who have literally spent their whole lives serving our country, putting service before self, putting their lives on the line to defend democracy, and yet people are criticizing them and discriminating against them, saying just because you served as a general previously, you are disqualified from serving in a high position of leadership in our government. These people arguably have put far more on the line and are far more deeply personally committed to upholding and protecting our democracy than their critics.
It's not so much like what she said, it's how she framed it. And, you know, screw Jake Tapper, too.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like Jake Tapper in certain instances, but in this instance, I felt that he was like a co-conspirator in pushing Gabbard's talking point. It was like, notice how he set the question up. It was like in correspondence to her straw man talking point,
Right.
which was what? Like,
Well, he was talking about Democrats
having concern about having
too many
generals. That was
in the administration.
in administration. And honestly,
Is that the concern?
No, the concern is who these generals are.
Right.
And maybe having so many generals a part of the administration and what that means for how foreign policy can go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they're generals that in and of itself.
One of her statements was, just because you served as a general previously, you're disqualified.
Who says that? Who's saying that?
Who has said that?
Who is saying that?
I don't know anybody that has said that.
That it makes you disqualified because you're a general. Now, maybe because
that argument.
Maybe because of certain viewpoints these generals have might make them disqualified.
So let's kind of get to the heart of the issue, because Jake Tapper mentioned 3 former generals.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned retired Marine General John Kelly, retired General James Mattis, and he mentioned retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Now, with all of these individuals, all 3 of them, there are issues. There are concerns.
Yes, there are.
But Tulsi Gabbard didn't really mention any of those concerns. She pretty much said that they're retired generals. They have served in our military. I guess
you know what she did? She pulled
administration.
She pulled what you call like a Hillary Clinton, or what she pulled the same thing the Hillary Clinton campaign did during the election. Is, you know, when the whole, if you're against Hillary Clinton, you're against all women.
Right.
Like, no, we're against this woman.
Right.
That doesn't mean we're against all women being president. In this case, Tulsi Gabbard pulled the same thing, but with generals.
Retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. There have been a number of things that he has said in his past. One of them, which is very offensive, he said that we are facing another ism, just like we faced Nazism, fascism, and imperialism, and communism. This is Islamism. It is a vicious cancer inside the body of 1.7 billion people on this planet, and it has to be excised.
And which one? Which is Flynn?
That was Flynn.
That was Flynn. I think he also said Sharia law is either creeping into the U.S. or coming to the U.S.
Yeah.
I think he also tweeted something like, fear of Muslims is rational. He also said, talking about he's at war with Islam.
Think about what he put a target on 1.7 billion Muslims.
Yeah, because he
throughout
said
the world.
Because he said it's the faith is the problem. He said that
Islam is the problem.
He said the faith itself is the problem.
So either these people are terrorists, or I guess they are going to be terrorists at some point.
Why wouldn't that be a problem if this guy has views like this? It's automatically going to be a problem. And Tulsi Gabbard tried to make it about something else so we wouldn't talk about those issues. You think she really doesn't know those are concerns people have with Flynn or the other two? Which they have just as many problematic views too. And speaking of Flynn, I think his subordinates used to have a name for those instances where he displayed some very questionable viewpoints, and they called him Flynn facts. Because they're
Flynn
facts. Facts.
They ain't facts.
Because they're not facts. They're facts that like specifically just lie within his head.
The John Kelly, retired general. At one point, he had said, unless confronted by an immediate, visible, or uncomfortable crisis, our nation's tendency is to take the security of the Western Hemisphere for granted. I believe this is a mistake. He said this in 2015.
Our tendency is to take it for granted? Wait a second. We have 800 military bases across the globe. Is that taking it for granted?
And how much do we spend on the military?
Let's see. Over 50% of
Over
our
50%.
budget, and more than the next 10 countries combined. I mean, we've been engaged in regime change or regime adjustment
In many countries.
in many countries. That's taking it for
Started
granted.
wars.
So according to him, that's actually us being light. That's us. That's military light
So
to
what
him.
the hell would his plan be? You see that why this would be concerning?
Yeah.
At him in a leadership role inside the administration? If we're not doing enough with all of the deplorable things that we do
Already have done.
all across the globe, raining terror everywhere, destabilizing regions. We're not doing enough already. We need to do more.
Arming terrorists.
And this guy, because he's a general,
We're just supposed to take his word at face value simply because he was in the military. Like, nah, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to take his word at face value so I don't look like, somebody who's not patriotic. No.
So why was it so hard for Tulsi Gabbard to speak about what concerns people have with these particular retired generals? Why was it so hard for her to do that instead of just alleviate all of that criticism?
It would be hard for her to do that because I guess the perspective of these potential appointments is problematic.
Mm-hmm.
The worldview of these particular appointments is problematic. That's why it would be tough. She would have to then kind of dig into that, but she doesn't want to do that. She has to, I guess, toe the line. And that's what she's doing right now. She has to toe the line because she is potentially in line for a position herself.
So what you're saying is that
Political expediency
is controlling.
It's controlling her decisions. I mean, we tried to tell y'all about her, but no, we got so much shit for it. Because look at it. Does it make sense? Look at the line. Look at the path she's taken. Does it make sense? She stepped down from her position at the DNC. Why? As protest.
Right.
Because she felt the DNC wasn't being impartial like they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? That was a move that indicated some sort of integrity on her part.
And again, that move was pretty much about foreign affairs. It was about foreign policy and how dangerous she thought Hillary Clinton would be.
But
and how it was an ethical choice.
But then what happened after Bernie Sanders conceded to Hillary Clinton after the primary was over? She endorsed Hillary Clinton. She didn't just, step aside.
Right.
She endorsed Hillary Clinton. So to me, her integrity or, that gets removed in my point, in my position.
Because if it wasn't, If it wasn't ethical to support Hillary Clinton during the primaries, why was it ethical to
support her during the general? Okay, all right. And let's say people might say, well, it was to stop Trump. It was to stop Trump. Well, that's not true now, because now she is on CNN defending, Trump's potential appointments. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't even make a sense. So I
think that's important right there to kind of bring that up, because if she was really being objective about it, then it would have been easy for her to say, look, this one guy, Flynn here, you see why this is a problem. Now, I know he's a retired general. I know that he has fought for our military. He's fought for our country. But that doesn't alleviate him of these criticisms.
And see, and that's the thing. She's like on this, like, I don't know. I just sense a lot of imperialistic subtleties coming from her, because it's like, don't criticize these generals. They're in the military. So they always have our best interest at heart. As if, like, first of all, the military is not the brains of the operation. They're like one of the arm. Well, with America, they half the body, but in that analogy, they're like an arm. Right. They're an arm of a branch or arm of the government.
They receive command.
They receive commands, and so it's almost like she's getting into this thing where they almost are more qualified to be in command simply because they're in the military. They understand democracy more than everybody else.
But see, we've talked about that kind of mentality before and how it really shows up with our police force too. Police officers all across the country.
Oh, you're saying simply because they wear a uniform.
Right. They wear the badge.
They wear the badge and they wear the uniform. So
they are the most patriotic people.
Automatically they would understand what direction the entire country should go in simply because they wear a military uniform.
Right. As if that all their actions will be just.
And as if somehow defending democracy is only about fighting. As if there's no other way people across the country defend democracy. To me, you defend democracy by, I don't know, maybe questioning the collusion between the corporations and the government,
right?
And how they make decisions for the best interest of a few. To me, calling kind of that stuff out, that's defending democracy. What about, advocating for law enforcement reform? That's a form of defending democracy.
How ridiculous is it for you to think your kid is the best kid in the world, perfect, ain't gonna do anything wrong? How ridiculous is that, right? And then you hear some stuff about what they did at school. They punch somebody in the eye and like, oh no, little Jimmy didn't do that, right? Why is the fact that they were generals, why does that mean anything? When they have significant concerns, it doesn't really mean anything. Hillary Clinton had how much experience throughout her lifetime, right? Did it mean anything to a lot of people? Because we saw that experience meant nothing when it came to representing the people of America, the people that are not in the 1%. We saw that and we understood that.
I'm just really disappointed in how Tulsi Gabbard chose to, address the concerns.
You know what she did? She defended them unconditionally. You know what I'm saying? And we know how dangerous that is.
It is. And we don't have a problem with maybe her advising Trump on certain things. We don't have a problem, with her possibly getting a position within the Trump administration. We don't have a problem with that at all.
No.
It's, again, the way she's going about it. It's the way she's going about it that shows a certain level of political expediency.
You mentioned the criticism that we had gotten because
we questioned her progressiveness.
Yeah, because there are things about her that should be questioned. She's not above criticism, just like nobody else is as well, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna hold everybody accountable. But what she did was not a very progressive thing. Like, a lot of people said to us that, look, she's a progressive. Just end it right there. She's a progressive. She's a great progressive. We want her in 2020, right? But this interview with Jake Tapper, this is concerning. This is legitimately concerning. You don't want to see someone up there giving unconditional support of anyone. So I would kind of hope that this would kind of remove some of the unconditional support that people have placed
on her. Yo, I'm not feeling Tulsi.